Hello, hello. My name is Joanna Clark with Blissful Baby Coaching, and I know I'm coming into this Facebook Live later than expected because I went live today at 2 p.m. Pacific on my cell phone using data because our entire neighborhood has been out of no Wi-Fi for the whole day. And it finally went back on. So that means I can finally come on and speak to you without the screen glitching, without interruption, because my attempt to do it on my phone using data was clearly not working. And I was lucky enough to have many of you text me personally and say, Joanna, we can't hear you. It's not working. So I decided to just abandon ship and make a commitment to come back and speak to you now to continue our conversation about the pitfalls and obstacles to successful sleep coaching. And so, those of you that come live, thank you so much for being here unexpectedly. But I would imagine that the majority of you are going to be watching this on replay. So, I want to just give a couple of quick housekeeping logistics first. I want you to all know I'm not going to be on Facebook Live next Thursday, which is the 16th. But I will be live on July 23rd at 2 p.m. Pacific. And so therefore, if you have questions that you want to submit in advance so that I am live and answering your questions at 2 p.m. Pacific on July 23rd, then I welcome you to go ahead and submit them, over the course of the next week and a half or so, and I will be sure to download those and be at the ready to answer all your questions. I'm going to post that right here in the comments. And the good news is that you have time to think about it in the future. And you can even submit multiple questions over the course of the next couple of weeks, and I can consolidate it all and maybe even create a lesson around some of your questions. So today, what I wanted to talk to you about is the pitfalls and obstacles of sleep coaching. Because my goal is for every family I work with is complete and absolute sleep success. What I mean by that is I want their children I want there to be easy, drama-free bedtimes. Child goes to sleep independently in their own independent sleep space, sleep the whole night, peacefully and quietly. If they want to feed, great, that the feed is quick and easy and efficient for the caregiver. And I also am hoping that parents can have reliable and easy naps. And so, but to get there, oftentimes from where a family began and how difficult and challenging the sleep struggles are to getting to that beautiful wish list of sleep success is a long road. And the reality is that unless you're realistic about what the pitfalls and obstacles that can come in your way are, oftentimes families will, by accident, give up way too soon in the process because they don't understand what those obstacles might mean or look like, or they might not realize they're actually creating an obstacle that is inhibiting their success, and they give up because of the difficulty they experience when they hit that obstacle. So I don't want that to happen to you. And that's why I thought this would be a great topic to discuss today. And obviously I can go in deeper into all of these topics. Therefore, if you watch this on the replay and you have additional questions regarding each of these areas of possible pitfalls, please in the comments do #replay and then tell me what more information you might need as it relates to some of these specific areas that I wanted to mention today. So I'm going to kind of do like a brief overview, and then I'm going to look to you to come back to me to go deeper on some of these topics as it relates to what people are really experiencing for themselves. Okay, so obviously we got to remember what sleep coaching is all about. Remember, sleep coaching is all about creating the right circumstances and the right environment for your child to learn their sleep skills. And so part of those right circumstances and right environment is making sure that you're starting at the right time. And so what is the right time for sleep coaching? Typically, a child is ready for sleep coaching when they have successfully learned how to roll front to back and back to front. So some babies do that really early at like 4 and 5 months, and it takes some babies until they're 6 or 7 months to be really comfortable and confident with their rolling milestone front to back and back to front. Also, I don't ever recommend, another pitfall for families is they sometimes by accident will start sleep coaching at the beginning of an obstacle of of a developmental milestone. And if you recall, if you watched last week's Facebook Live, the topic was all about regressions and what causes them and what to do about them. And one of the big areas where families experience regression, which is very difficult, is often around the beginning of a milestone or right smack in the middle of when the milestone is trying to be developed. So remember, in the first 20 months of life, children have 10 separate milestone periods. And if you try to start sleep coaching right on the edge of a new one starting, or God forbid, it's already begun and you try sleep coaching, the reality is that you're probably not going to be as successful. You're going to see a lot more protest. You're going to see a lot more arousals. It's actually going to be a much more difficult process for your child and therefore a difficult process for you. So one of these ideas is that, when you start sleep coaching, when you start sleep coaching, it's a very thoughtful, methodical process. It's not a situation where you just wake up tomorrow morning and go, I'm going to sleep coach my child tonight. No, you want to kind of plan in advance, look at your calendar, make sure your child's not going to be entering into any milestone periods, and know that you're going to be home for at least 2 to 3 weeks so you can really work on building this and mastering the skill sets of for sleep coaching skills. So one of the pitfalls and obstacles for families is they start at the wrong time. They start at one of these milestone periods and they just have a miserable experience. The other thing that often will happen for families that inhibit their success is that they don't recognize they have some underlying medical issues that are actually making it really difficult for the child to self-soothe and self-settle. So some of the obvious medical conditions are eczema, reflux, silent reflux, babies, toddler sleep apnea, and food sensitivities and digestive issues. So we really want to make sure that any of those medical conditions that would be inhibiting their ability to self-settle and self-soothe are managed before you start a sleep coaching process. For a lot of families, they sometimes they go undiagnosed with a baby with reflux. And so they'll attempt to do some sleep coaching at 4 or 5 months of age, and they just run into obstacle after obstacle, meaning that the sleep plan that they're implementing isn't working. The child's doing a lot of crying, and there's just a lot of frustration and confusion. And only then do they come to me and say, what's going on? Why is this not working? And lo and behold, it is revealed to us that the child is experiencing reflux or silent reflux. And that was one of the reasons why everything the parent was doing to implement their sleep plan wasn't working. So, reflux is the number one sleep disruptor in babies from 4 to 6 months of age. So if you're trying to sleep train a baby and you're not sure if they're refluxing, or maybe they still kind of are refluxing and you haven't really managed that, it's going to be very difficult for them in the sleep coaching process because they're genuinely uncomfortable. And remember, the skills of sleep are learning how to self-settle and self-soothe. And if the child in general is uncomfortable because of eczema or digestive issues or reflux issues, then you're asking them to self-settle and self-soothe under very difficult conditions. And remember, the whole goal of sleep coaching is to create the right circumstances and the right environment for their learning. So we want to really make sure that those are not obstacles that are not being attended to before you start sleep coaching. The other area that we want to consider that can be a massive pitfall and obstacle is flip-flopping caregivers. So for some families, they'll kind of have dad try sleep coaching one night, and then mom does sleep coaching the next night, and then dad goes back on the third night. And sometimes mom does sleep coaching during the day, but then she doesn't do it at night. And so there's all this inconsistency about who's doing the sleep training and when they're doing the sleep training. And that creates a lot of protest tears for the child, because the child does not recognize the new pattern trying to be established because the flip-flopping of the caregiver. So one of my recommendations when I'm working with my families is, let's have one coach commit from bedtime all the way through till 6 a.m. and that one coach take on a minimum of 3 days, possibly more, 5 days in a row, so that we can establish some caretaking consistency for your child, which again will minimize tears, minimize frustration, which is my whole philosophy. My whole philosophy as a gentle sleep coach, and a guilt-free gentle sleep coach at that, is I want to minimize frustration. I want to minimize protest tears. I want to make this easiest on the baby and therefore easiest on you. So consider one coach who takes from bedtime through every arousal all night up until 6 a.m. and that coach take on that responsibility to kick off the sleep coaching for a minimum of 3 nights in a row before changing caregivers. The other obstacle that happens all the time is that families will start sleep coaching at nap time and not nighttime. So unfortunately, that poses a very difficult problem for children, because the easiest time for them to learn their sleep skills is at the onset of sleep at bedtime, after great daytime sleep, and at the right sleep window. And so when they're learning new skills, again, we want to create the easiest environment for them. If you're asking them to try to do that for the first time at 2 p.m. and they've never done it at the onset of sleep at bedtime after great daytime sleep, why would you ever have them be successful in the day? They wouldn't. And again, families will say, well, I tried sleep training for naps and it didn't work. And I said, well, does your child have independent sleep skills in the middle of the night? No, we still crutch them at night. Well, that's why. So families, again, they often are misinterpreting what it really means to sleep train. And my philosophy is that teaching at the onset of sleep at bedtime is one of the most important arenas in which your child to learn. And once we master nights and all the partial arousals, then we move on to naps. And I try not to nap train and night train at the same time unless it's really required by the family from a logistical standpoint, or unless the baby shows a tremendous amount of willingness and readiness to do both at the same time. But my preference typically is to stagger. Another area where families will run into an obstacle and turn around and give up is that they change methodologies on the fly. So remember, you want to go into sleep coaching in a very methodical way. You and your partner want to have a united front. You want to know that this is something you're doing as a team, and that you've identified who the coach is going to be for the first 3 to 5 nights. And you also need to identify what methodology you want to use. And you need to stick with that methodology, all the way through the process. Because again, we want to create the consistency for the child to establish a new learning pattern. So if you're flip-flopping methodologies, and God forbid you're flip-flopping caregivers, you could see why you would hit all of these pitfalls and obstacles. You could see why it would be very hard to maintain any kind of upward success in those circumstances. So there are 3 main methodologies. There's extinction, there's extinction, or also known as Dr. Weisbluth extinction, or cry it out. There's Ferber, also known as time checks, and there's the shuffle or camping out position, also known as the Sleep Lady shuffle or gradual extinction. And I'm a gentle sleep coach, so I believe in the Sleep Lady Shuffle because I believe that it's important for a parent to be in the room helping their child learn their sleep skills so that you can offer physical and verbal assurances, such as patting and picking up to help your child learn this new skill set. I think it's important to be present in the beginning. But you know your child the best, and it's important to research all the different methodologies and come into agreement with your partner to make sure that everybody knows exactly what methodology they're following, and then follow it all the way through. So if you're reading a book, great, follow the recommendations all the way through that book. If you're taking a video digital course, great. Make sure you watch all the videos, make sure you download the PDF and everybody reads it. You know, this is sleep coaching is a lot like going on a diet. You know, you have to be very conscientious and thoughtful and plan ahead and be super consistent. And then then you'll lose your 10 pounds before your 20-year high school reunion. But if you're kind of, you're either on a diet or you're not on a diet. So you're either sleep coaching or you're not sleep coaching. So you want to choose your methodology and be consistent all the way through. So that is the highlight of the pitfalls and obstacles that families will often run into around sleep coaching, and they will often give up too quickly. A lot of times you hear someone say, "Oh, I tried sleep coaching for 2 nights. It was miserable. I gave up." Well, does any child learn a skill in 2 to 3 days? Typically, no. So you have to look at this as a learned skill. So you have to recognize this could take your child 2 to 3 weeks of the right circumstance and the right environment to learn their sleep skills of self-settling and self-soothing. And they need that right circumstance to hear from you. If you have, I would love to hear from you if you have any other thoughts or considerations around the obstacles that you ran into that maybe you were able to turn them around. Um, if you have tried sleep coaching in the past and you just found yourself utterly confused and frustrated, or you found that you and your spouse just could not come to agreement, and that you find that you need some assistance with consistency and accountability, don't be afraid to reach out to a sleep coach for assistance. There's no reason to struggle around sleep when there's help and hope available. And some babies are tricky, you guys. I know long ago when my baby wasn't sleeping, she was a tricky one. I had to reach out for help. And now, over the past 10 years of me doing my sleep coaching business, where I've helped thousands of families, I love the fact that parents are reaching out. And what I love even more is when dads are reaching out and saying, "Whoa, we've tried and failed. I think we need help." Or, "Whoa, my wife is so exhausted. I need to help her. She needs some additional support. I'm the dad. I don't know what I'm doing. She's exhausted. I need to protect her and protect my baby." I love when dads reach out, and I'm seeing more and more dads reach out these days, and I'm just so grateful and thankful. So over the course of the last 10 years, I'm noticing how much more proactive dads have become and how much more interactive they are with their caretaking, and how much they love to take the lead on sleep coaching because they can be really successful and they can stay really consistent when they feel comfortable and confident with the plan. So sleep coaching can be a magical, wonderful process, you guys. It can be amazing. I mean, you can go from total chaos and sleep deprivation to your child sleeping 11 hours blissfully all night long and taking reliable naps. I had a really great call today with one of my past clients, and her baby is just thriving and taking great naps and made a beautiful transition back to daycare after all this COVID difficulty. And, we took the time during COVID to sleep train. And when she had to go back to work and back to commuting and back to some challenging, family logistical circumstances. The one thing is that she had this baby that was sleeping on a beautiful sleep schedule at night and a beautiful daytime sleep schedule at daycare, and was thriving at daycare because he now is getting the healthy sleep habits, and the sleep that he needs for healthy development. So thank you so much for joining me today. I hope that this was helpful. Again, I will not be here next week, which is the 16th of July. I will be back here on the 23rd, and I welcome you to submit questions in advance. And I'm more than happy to, if you have a topic you want me to talk on, oh my gosh, I love it when people are like, tell me more about this. And then, of course, you can see I love to chat. So I will definitely take all your suggestions and run with it and produce something really good for you. So thank you so much. Everyone stay safe and stay well. Take care.